Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Nom Talk Review, where we talk about our favorite films or, even new films that have come out recently. And we talk about them while nomming on our favorite foods. Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite Studio Ghibli film, Princess Mononoke. Came out in 1997 and is celebrating its 25th anniversary, which is crazy to think that it's been that long since I've seen it. We're going to be getting into it. I'm excited to talk about it. I love this film. I am joined today by Yaya, Alyssa, and Sabina. Thank you so much for joining us, especially Alyssa. I know you're on the East Coast. Thanks so much for joining us. The time is crazy, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
What are you guys nomming on? Yaya, what are you nomming on today?
I am eating Hainan chicken rice with some pickled cucumbers.
Yes.
Yes, I know. Homemade too, so I'm really excited. And I'm just drinking some herbal tea.
Nice. Very nice. Sabina, how about you? What are you nomming on today?
I am nomming on poke. It's all mixed up and gross looking now, but it's delicious. And
nice.
I have like ADHD brain, so I actually technically had 3 drinks on me. I had like a Moroccan mint tea latte from Coffee Bean, a water bottle, and some ginger beer.
Ooh.
Very nice. Awesome. And Alyssa, how about you?
I already ate dinner because it's 11, but I have a seltzer.
Very nice. Is that
What's the flavor?
Is that a bubbly?
It's vintage seltzer. It's cherry.
Ooh.
Not my favorite, but it's what I have.
For sure. All right. I, on the other hand, I'm going to be eating later on. I'm hoping to grab myself some Asian food myself. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe Chinese food. I'm hoping for some Japanese food. Maybe I can find something open. I'm hoping. I'm really hoping. But with that in mind, let's talk about Princess Mononoke. Freaking 25 years old, which is nuts. I mean, gosh, it came out obviously it came out in the summer, July 12th, 1997. It was competing with a few other films. I don't recall exactly entirely what they were competing against, but I do remember the theater was packed for sure. I remember the theater was absolutely packed. And of course, because in theaters, I saw it in Japan, so the theaters in Japan, they don't care if there aren't any seats. You stand in the back of the movie theater for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, doesn't matter how long the movie is, you're standing in the back of the movie theater. It's insane. But basically, that's kind of what it was. It was the first movie that I remember sitting in, and I was going, because there's just somebody just posted against the wall next to you, and you're kind of like, what's going on? But that's how crazy this film was. It was so awesome. It was, I remember when it was finally brought over to the States with the American dub by Miramax. But when they brought it over, I remember it was compared to as like the Star Wars of animation films. So like it's epic. It's an amazing fantasy story. It's like a period piece while being a fantasy film at the same time, and it's so great. It talks about we're talking about demons, spirits, curses, and it's, oh my gosh! And just I still remember as a kid jumping out of my seat. It's like when that thing first busts through the wall. Come on, and then when that demon first breaks through the wall, you all jumped. Gosh, like I would love to hear about your guys' experience. Like I know mine. Like I was very fortunate enough to be able to see it in '97, but I'm sure.
Did you see it in theaters both times? Did you see it in theaters in Japan and in theaters in the States?
Yeah, I did. So when they brought it in the States, I didn't get a chance to see it when it first got brought into the States. It wasn't until like, how like sometimes like Fathom Events does. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a chance to, like, it was like a few years ago, like they were doing just some random like night where they were doing Princess Mononoke. So I was like, I'm gonna go see that. So I got a chance to see it then. But but I won't lie though, it's like it was weird. I saw it in the English dub, and I don't know. I'm a purist, and I just gotta say, I don't like this. Like, and I love Billy Crudup. I love Claire Danes, but I was still like, like Sir Golden God from Almost Famous. Like, I love him, but I couldn't get behind it in this film. I know. However, I was stoked to find out that actually, I don't know if you ever had him as a professor, Sabina, at Elko, but Professor Demita from
Yeah, I was in one of his shows. Yeah, he did. I knew that name.
Yeah, he's in the movie. He's actually in the American dub.
Yeah,
he plays Toroku, the guy who breaks his arm. So like, I mean, I know he had a lot of fun watching it. So like, it's one of those weird moments where it's like, I don't like this dub, but I like that my professor's in it.
It's like really sacrilegious. I actually really like the Ghibli dubs. I know it's bad because I'm literally like, on the one hand, I have literally yelled at people for not watching the correct version of RRR, which is also a historical fantasy. To Tollywood film that is like a really big blockbuster in South India right now. That is
so good.
It's so freaking good. Like I wish people could see it in the theater, because in the theater it's actually in its actual language with.
Is it?
But on Netflix they have the Hindi dub, which is not as good as like the actual language it's in. Like, I think like the sound mix is kind of like just slightly off, but as a film purist, I'm like, what the hell? So I totally get where you're coming from with that. But I don't know, like I thought that the dubs for the Ghibli films here were done really well, because basically Disney and Miramax were like, we don't know what to do with this, and they basically handed the reins over to Pixar. So like Pete Docter, I think, was the main person, and some of those other filmmakers in that like range of things who did the casting for the Ghibli films. They did some of like, the motion editing of like making sure it, looked as good as it could and stuff. They kind of handled everything after the whole sword incident, which I love, like the Easter egg where he who must not be named, who was at Miramax, wanted to like trim down Princess Mononoke. And Miyazaki sent a sword. It was like, you are not getting anything. So that's like one of the most epic sort of stories, I think, in Hollywood, of films that got to be what they're supposed to be. But yeah, like I actually hadn't seen it until literally today. I love Ghibli films, but like for me, I have to be like in the mood to like actually sit down and watch them and like concentrate and stuff, to like really dedicate that time to it. And I was really blown away by the violence. Even like as an adult, like that opening is really intense. You have those moments of like wonder, but then also terror, like, and sort of what it has to say about nature, like man versus nature, is just so cool. And definitely, like when I have kids, I will wait a while to show them this. But like when I do, like, it's something that they have to see someday for sure.
I tried showing it to my husband a few years ago and he fell asleep. And I know it's long, but I don't know how you fall asleep just based on how stunning it is and how violent it is. I just don't know how you fall. And he won't try watching it again. I was like, just.
It's the most accessible Studio Ghibli film, I feel like. I don't understand why.
Well, he's like, Howl's Moving Castle. Kiki's cute. Like he's like, he's a little older. And he's like, I don't like it. And then we saw Ponyo, and he was like, oh my god, that's so funny. I was like, that's the one. That's the one. Like, it's cute, but like, really? Okay.
It's so weird, because like I'm like the opposite, where I'm literally going like, I can't get behind a lot of the newer Miyazaki Ghibli films. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still great, but maybe it's just because maybe it's the age that I'm at, but like they just don't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Like the other films do. Maybe it's an age thing. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. For me, also, like I watched it because I didn't watch it in Japanese. So like for me, the language that I prefer is actually Mandarin because that's how I when I was little, like my grandmother bought like this whole set from like Taiwan or Hong Kong. So I like Cantonese is also another language that I grew up watching it in. So for me, Japanese and English is both weird. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, okay. But I remember watching like for me, Princess Mononoke as a kid, I hated it as a kid. It was for me was so scary.
Oh, it is scary.
Yeah, it was so scary. And like, which is funny because now I'm like, I love horror, I love scary things. But as a kid, I was like a little coward. And I remember watching it. I remember sitting there and I remember having nightmares about it, especially like the little squiggly like worm things. And I'm like, I have a fear of like things burrowing underneath my skin.
It definitely invokes that. Is it like tryptophobia or something?
I don't think it's tryptophobia. Like, tryptophobia is like the holes.
The holes. It makes me think of the
holes
out of like the different like beings that it comes out of. I'm like, oh no.
I know. So like for me, I'm like sitting there and I'm like getting like the squirmies and I'm like, ew. So like now as an adult, I'm like, okay, I can like appreciate it a lot more as an adult and understand it more. But as a kid, especially that deer, like the face is like, and it's like, and it gets closer to you, and I was like, no. So yeah, as a kid, I was
very,
like
alien-like in a weird way.
Oh, I laughed my ass off when that deer first shows its human face. I just went, ah! Like it's just standing there, just like, and I'm like, I mean, I know it's supposed to be like this, majestic, wonderful thing, and obviously it's like, you know, it's supposed to represent something so much grander, but like, just for me personally, when I first saw the face, like I thought it was hilarious. The only time I actually thought it got weird and creepy was when it got shot in the neck. Like that's the face that made me kind of get icky. But like its human face that it has itself actually didn't freak me out that much. But like it's crazy. Like I will like it's like the squirmies and stuff. Like I definitely remember having dreams about this movie afterwards as well. They weren't necessarily nightmares. I don't know. I didn't get the worms engraved in my mind so much. Like I got the Kodama little.
Oh, that's so cute though.
Those guys.
They're so adorable with their little jiggly butts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one that's showing its bomb while it's running. Yeah, I will say, like, I love that. Just this film was a shock for me because I remember my mom kind of took me to see this movie because I think the film right before this was actually My Neighbor Totoro that came out right before this film. So because of that, like that was kind of what we were kind of thinking going into a Miyazaki film, like, it's gonna be, you know.
No way. Oh no.
I mean, creatures galore, you know, Miyazaki never disappoints in the creature department. So like, you know, that was exactly what it was. That did not disappoint. But as far as like the intensity, I don't think my mother was necessarily prepared for that, like for me to deal with that. I mean, I ultimately ended up getting through the movie, no problem, but like, but it was definitely like, it's a very intense film, I will say. Like, I mean, from the get-go, you know, it has like that weird shot where you don't necessarily see anything, but you just kind of see the demon kind of move across the screen and like leave its smoking footprint in the ground, and then you get the title card, and you're like, you know, you're introduced to like this mystery, and then you also get introduced to this. Then you get introduced to this warrior on this deer, we think it's a deer. We don't like, but just the world that it's a world that is kind of familiar, but yet alien at the same time. And I love that. And ultimately the message that, Miyazaki was trying to convey with this, the idea of industrialization, destruction of nature, the idea that we've lost our connection to the spirit realm, things like that, I think is so deep. And I really truly do believe that, there are a lot of customs, especially connected to the spiritual world, even in Japanese customs, that have kind of been lost. I remember my mother showed me a video. She just happened to be really lucky. They were doing construction on a building near my grandmother's house, but they were removing the old well that used to be there. But before they did that, all the construction workers stood around in silence while they had a priest come by and bless the well and basically let the spirit that was residing in there let it rest finally. So thank you for protecting the well. You may rest now. And then of course they absolutely destroyed the hell out of the thing. But but still just the fact that there is that custom there, that that connection to the spiritual world. I'm all about that spirituality stuff, especially to nature. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm the kind of guy that wants to walk. If it weren't for the fact that it would hurt my feet so much, I want to walk barefoot in the forest. But that's personally how I feel. I actually would love to hear everyone's personal connection with this film. It's when they're first time seeing. I mean, I know Sabina, you just recently saw it, and everyone as well. It's just how it's just resonates with you and just stays with you. I feel I don't know. How do you guys feel about how this how this film resonates? I don't know. I know it's relatively new for Sabina, but for Yaya and Alyssa, how has it resonated with you guys since you've seen it?
I remember there was also an article, not just industrialization, what this movie was referencing to, but I think it was there was, I don't know if Miyazaki said it, but it was the effect of what happened after post World War II. I think that was one of the thing that the film was also portraying, was not just urbanization, but what after the bombs, everything that happened, it was the killing and desecration of the land. And again, as I said, I first reaction to it, as I said, as a kid, I was terrified of this film. But watching again, because I was one of those kids, if I'm scared of it as a kid, I'm not gonna watch it for 10 years because I have that trauma and that PTSD from it. But I remember watching it again as an adult, and I was one, of course, how beautifully it's done, but two, I personally felt really sad watching this film. One, I don't remember the characters' names, but the supposed to be the big bag lady, the one that loses her arm.
Oh, Iboshi.
Yes. Watching that, I'm just as a kid, you're supposed to hate her. You're supposed to be all she's evil, she's trying to do this. But then as an adult watching, I'm she's trying to do her best. Maybe her best wasn't the right way, but she was doing her best for the people. And the fact that she was taking those unwanted, the unwanted women who society deemed dirty, or the lepers and that kind of stuff. It's what she was trying to do was amazing for society. Maybe it wasn't the best for the connection with nature, but for me, also really felt sad is that nature still had to die for men to progress. In the end, you lost the wolves, you lost the a lot of the, even though the deer god thing got its thing back, but so much was still lost. And for me, it gave me more of a melancholy feeling than anything else.
Absolutely. It definitely, yeah. No, it definitely, as a kid, you definitely are watching it. It's very much a visual, just mind tapestry, just wow. But definitely as you get older, it is true. It's watching certain films, now versus then, you catch the nuances, you understand the meaning a little bit deeper. You're just, It kind of, and it's a lot. Some films become a lot heavier in that regard.
Yeah.
Alyssa, how about you?
I haven't watched it in a while, but I know when I first watched it, it was a lot to take in. And going off what you said, yeah, I felt sad, and I think over the years, the more I watched it, I really appreciate how, I mean, it's horrible, but I really appreciate how relevant it is, just on different levels, just like how society and nature, how people treat each other, you know, guns, like things just keep coming up, and it's always just so relevant. It doesn't feel dated at all. I had a thought and then it just lost. Come back to me. I'm gonna find my thought again.
I mean, just to jump on that point, I completely agree, because it just made me think of like the fires that are happening in Europe right now, the intense heat that's happening in places where it's completely abnormal, the storms that are coming in, the way that there's like this video on Twitter of like tourists in Hawaii, like at a reception, and like a giant wave comes and floods through, and they just like stare at it and kind of like don't even fathom that this thing that is very real is happening. That's how disconnected some people are from the impact of capitalism and industrialism on the environment. And totally agree. It is really relevant still. And so for me, it definitely was a necessary and hard watch, but also just like beautiful and just completely like, I guess bittersweet would be the word to kind of describe it. You know, the stuff we're still going through, and you kind of like it gets harder to like have faith in humanity, you know, day by day, but you know, like hopefully there's something we can still do, and hopefully we still have time left.
I was actually just going to, thank you for piggybacking, because I was actually just going to ask, as a new viewer to this who hadn't seen it before, who's coming into it fresh, I would actually love to hear I actually want to hear your take and what you took from it. So thank you actually for doing that. I guess
it's so good.
next thing we can talk about is first of all, the artwork in this. We were talking about a lot of it a second ago. Like it's very, very well done. Like it's you know, and Alyssa, you were saying it still holds up. Like the animation, it does not look old. I think it kind of it's lucky because it doesn't use any like 3D animation really.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, there might be a little bit here and there for like when the spirit of the forest finally becomes the giant headless demon that is that's searching around. Like in that morphing sequence, there might be a little bit here and there, but as far as like overall, it's primarily 2D animation, and I think that's why it holds up the way it does. I mean, also I feel like Hayao Miyazaki, despite the fact that he uses a 2D medium, he thinks like a cinematographer and thinks in 3 dimensions. Like I love in the old VHS version that you could get. I don't know if they ever have these featurettes in the American DVDs or not, but in the old VHS, there was actually clips of like Hayao Miyazaki like acting out how he wanted Ashitaka to like attack the samurai in that final sequence. When he like catches the arrow in his mouth and stuff, like that whole sequence, he acts it out, and it's just crazy. It's like this man knows visually like exactly how this is gonna play out, and like I think he's the GOAT. Let's face it, he's the GOAT as far as like animation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, he writes, he storyboards, he directs, he's crazy. Like this guy is, and of course, there's that whole documentary on him about how he acts. Like, you know, when he's writing, he's just like,
how he hates everything. He's just like angry all the time.
The writer's block is
he's
so relatable.
he's like, what is he smokes like 3 packs of cigarettes a day or something like that because he's just so stressed.
Yeah, which of course, when you hear about how much he smokes, then you wonder like, wow, you really are Japanese, and the other one, you're also like, you're not dead yet, dude. Like, what? I mean, you're not dead. Because like, you know, like, but it is crazy. Like I do know that he has like, I know he's abandoned. He's even talked about how he's abandoned ideas in the past, and he just says, because I just can't get past it. Sometimes I revisit them, sometimes I don't. But I will say, like, his process is phenomenal. Like, it's so detailed. I mean, what's weird is the gore is so well detailed. Like, it's like when you see like when the arm gets pinned to the tree. Like, first of all, if anyone's not seen this movie, go see it. Go see. Actually, if you've got Disney Plus, just go to the Studio Ghibli tab, put it on. It's 2 hours and 13 minutes. It's basically the length of a Marvel film. You'll enjoy it. Okay. But yeah, like when the arm gets stuck to the tree, and you just kind of see like, first of all, it kind of looks like roast ham a little bit. Like the Japanese depiction of roast ham, you see like the nice muscle things, then you see like the bone.
Oh yeah, like the sinews.
The sinews.
It reminds me of like the Adult Swim sort of violence that they probably got it from.
Oh yeah, like I think it's this film is so juicy. There's always something going on. Like actually, if you look really closely, I actually didn't even see this in the VHS version originally. It wasn't until I actually got to see it on Blu-ray when I got it for my sisters for Christmas one year. That scene when he's helping those villagers escape, the old man that he meets later with the really tall sandals and the big mole. I don't look at his name, but he's actually there. You actually see him like for like 5 frames scurry out, but it's like, so I feel like it's like really, because like, and then of course later on in the dialogue you hear from him saying, hey, by the way, you actually saved my butt back then, you know, back there when you did that. And of course you're kind of like, oh, but then of course he's put so much detail into it. Like you can like freeze frame every part of this thing, and like you're gonna get it's like a visual snapshot. Just it's so beautiful every single
so gorgeous. I don't know if any of y'all got the chance to go to the Ghibli exhibit at the Academy Museum that was in LA for a while. It was stupidly hard to get into because it was always sold out on the weekends. It got to the point where literally my husband and I went on the last day to see if we do standby, and they were like, no. That I literally was like, we have to put money down to get like Academy memberships to see if that'll like help nudge us into it. And thankfully they were like, well, if you do sign up for the membership, which is like $150 for both of us at least, you can go to like the closing night like reception for members only. So we got to do that. It was worth every single damn penny because like Kenji says, everything is so like artistically immaculate. There was just a bunch of storyboards. Some of them were done in watercolor. Miyazaki assembles such an incredible team over with the fellow creatives and animators he has at Ghibli that you could see just like the beautiful like mixture of all the different mediums that come together to tell these stories. And that exhibit just completely blew me away. Like it's funny because they're very particular about video and photo of Miyazaki and Ghibli things, that you can't take photos inside of or just kind of like them. You can only really like go to the actual exhibit or go to the actual Ghibli museum in Japan. But even that one, you can't take photos inside. I don't believe.
No.
But yeah, so it just, and you don't even want to be on your phone, honestly, because it just, everything you see just completely immerses you in the world of these movies. And it's actually part of the reason why, like, I'm happy this came up, because like as soon as I left the exhibit, my husband and I spent like, I think like 2 or 3 hours there, because we were just like, this is incredible. And I was like, dang, I have to catch up and watch all the other Ghibli movies I hadn't seen, and like kind of like reconnect them like after the fact and stuff. But yeah, no, it's just the art is so, you can kind of see like how it inspires like other filmmakers too. I had the opportunity to go to the set for Kong Skull Island before, like while it was shooting in Hawaii. And that filmmaker, I forgot his last name, his first name's Jordan. He specifically had a lot of his like concept art up on display for us of like the certain things we weren't actually gonna be able to see, because like they shot in Hawaii at Kualoa Ranch, where they shot Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. And basically he was like, you know, we're making a monster film, but you can't see the monsters because they're obviously done with computer like animated and stuff. And he was like, I am inspired by Ghibli monsters. And so he showed us a lot of like different like concept art for the monsters you see in that film, which are very Ghibli-like. And he actually shares, I think, a lot of thematic elements with Princess Mononoke in Kong Skull Island, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, there were certain things that were just like directly ripped off. So the scene of like the skull of the first creature that was like a demon that was just on the field, that definitely inspired the scene in Kong Skull Island where Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson walk across the field and encounter the bones of like Kong's parents. It was like the same way that it's framed and everything is the exact same. And so you kind of get to see, for me as someone who has seen stuff that's been inspired by movies like Princess Mononoke, to see the blueprint is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually fun. I actually never got a chance to go to that Studio Ghibli museum. I really wanted to. Just hearing you talking about it, just I'm so jealous. And also the fact that you even got to go to Klonoa Ranch for that interview, like that's awesome. But also, it is cool to find out, to hear that there are so many directors nowadays that have seen these films, because I feel like these were such a niche thing before. I mean,
yes.
Even it's like, especially Ghibli films, I feel like until Spirited Away really kind of came to the scene. Like I feel like despite Princess Mononoke being probably, I feel, a little bit more mature, subject-wise compared to Spirited Away, it didn't capture adults, or I guess the general populace, like Spirited Away did. But once Spirited Away did, then everyone was like, hey, you should check out the other stuff. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And then, of course, then they got the recognition that it did. So to hear that there are directors inspired by these films is actually really awesome. And and I'm sure even Miyazaki would be thrilled to hear that his films are inspiring people in that way, and not just in his home, in his in his mainland Japan, but like globally, essentially. Like I would love to talk about. Hold on, actually, I would actually go into the comments for a quick section. Let's see, we've got Cue Ball. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Cue Ball was saying, I think I've seen this before. I think I've seen the film before, but like bits and pieces of it. But the animation was so good and badass. Cue Ball, you need to freaking see this. Like, my God. Like, don't see bits and pieces. Like, you got to see the whole thing. You're going to love it. And Ava, you are saying, Ava says, hi, everyone. Hi, Auntie Yaya. Ava says, hi, Yaya. And Ava also was saying, I was scared of this movie when I saw it on DVD in 2002, and I got to see it in theaters, though, a few weeks back, and it was amazing. Oh, when they did the Ghibli Week. Did anybody else get a chance to see the Ghibli Week films?
No.
No? I know that they did like a whole week of those in there. And also, and Yaya, she also said, and Ava also says, yes, Auntie, I agree with you. I hated her too, Lady Abyss now, but now I see her point. Gotcha. Got it. Let's talk about the casting. I unfortunately am not too, despite the fact that I love the Japanese version so much, I actually don't know the cast very well of the Japanese version very well. Like I know there are some veterans of the voice acting world in there for sure. I know that like Lady Abisu was like this amazing like Japanese theater actor, and she was like phenomenal. But I do know that, but of course the ones that I know mostly by name are the American cast, which was, Billy Crudup, Claire Danes, Professor Demita.
That is wild.
Jada Pinkett played his wife, I believe, in that one, doesn't she?
Wait.
Or no, it's Jada Pinkett, Lady Ibisu.
No, that's Iboshi is Mini Driver.
Mini Driver.
Yeah,
Oh.
Ibisu, Eboshi, sorry.
She plays the wife. Koruku's wife, a former prostitute.
Yes, that's right. So I was right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was all right. They did, as an adult, I can say they did a pretty decent job. I do love like that Billy Crudup has like an intensity about him that he only turns on when he needs to. The rest of the time, he's just so stoic and soft spoken, and I felt like it was perfect for Ashitaka's, like the journey and the struggle that he's going through, like the inner fight that he's going through. I thought was fantastic. And of course, we had Claire Danes as Sun, the princess of the Mononoke, the wolf girl, as she gets called primarily in this film. It's so weird because I feel like a lot of our introduction to her, most of America's introduction to her was Romeo plus Juliet, right?
Yeah.
She was Juliet, but of course but then she ends up becoming like but then from there she comes like this ultra badass, doesn't take shit from nobody, no human, like warrior princess. But of course, which is hilarious because at the time I was like, oh, that's so interesting. But of course nowadays you're like, oh yeah, no, she's in Homeland. Yeah, we know she's a badass. So like at the time it was an interesting casting, but I feel like ultimately in hindsight you think about it, you're like, oh no, this totally makes sense. Mini Driver, I don't think I've ever seen her. I'm sure she's been in bad films, but I don't think she's ever really given a bad performance per se. It was an all around like just phenomenal. Oh, and Billy Bob Thornton as the curmudgeon-y, creepy old man who wants a god's head. I mean, he, and at the time it kind of works. He was known for putting people's blood in vials, putting them around his neck. So to have him playing this character who wants a god's gross neck, it's like it totally worked. It was a stellar cast. I feel like it was fantastic, and it's obvious that they were trying to use the cast, to bring in audience members, because nowadays I feel like a big anime film, you could just put that anime film out and you could put people like, you could put someone in there like Nolan North, who isn't, we know who Nolan North is, but the general populace doesn't know who Nolan North is. So, but if you put a movie with him as the main lead voice, it would still work. It would like the animation, the work would speak for itself and all that stuff. So I can see why they got a lot of these people who probably never did voice acting before doing it, but ultimately I feel like despite my personal dislike for dubs, I feel like they did a great job. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I never had a problem with the English dub. I haven't seen the Japanese dub. That one I haven't gotten around to. Like, I've seen both versions of Kiki because I know the story changes a little bit. But as far as the English class goes, I never thought it felt weird, because sometimes you watch a dub and you're like, ooh, that's not quite the voice that look, it's a little weird. I thought they did a good job. I don't know who else I would have picked, honestly, from that time.
Yeah. Honestly, no, I don't think anybody else could have been doing it. How about you, Yaya? How do you think? We caught you with basketball and food.
I actually really enjoyed it. I think like that's the thing about studio like Ghibli, like I don't think any of their English dubs are actually bad. Like they really do look for the perfect I don't know. Again, remember for me it's like Mandarin is like my main like language when I think of Ghibli. But out of all the English dubs, like I've never heard a bad cast for a Ghibli film. I think they really do look for like, or at least listen for the right character. I mean, for the right actor for the character. So same thing with me. Like I usually hate listening to dub unless it's like, what was it, Ghost Stories, the one they just go full ham with. Like, but with Ghibli, I'm like, that's probably the only thing I can listen to dub without being like, oh.
Well, I think what helps is, so I know in like a lot of English dub animes, the voices are very like ham. It's very much putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the differences between what like Ghibli does is where they hire face actors, you know?
Yeah, they actually embody the characters as
so
opposed just to voice.
Exactly. And so I feel like it's more of a full body performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they're used to versus a voice actor who their voice is what their tool is, not necessarily their body. Not to say that voice actors they're great actors, but I think it's just different. It's like when you look at a film actor and a stage actor, they're both actors, they're just different.
It's just like how they channel the character.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why I like Ghibli films. I actually really enjoy their voice actors.
Sabina, what was your opinion on the dub act? What was your opinion on the dub?
Oh my gosh. I like I said earlier, I've actually only seen this one with the dub the one time I watched it, and I love the Howl's Moving Castle dub is my favorite. Just need to get Christian Bale trying out his like Batman voices before he like around the time that he was Batman. Because it's funny because like a lot of the characters have English they have an English accent except for Christian Bale, who is English, but he just did like a very like just hot like Batman for how he did the growl. Huh?
Was Christian Bale Hal?
Yeah,
Christian Bale is Hal.
Other than the fact that Billy Crystal is the fire, I haven't seen it in English. So.
Oh, I love it in English. Emily Mortimer plays Sophie, and she's precious. So cute.
Precious, yeah.
Oh, I will actually, Yaya, just to say, there actually has been a bad English dub of a Ghibli film.
Which one?
It actually happens to be Kiki's Delivery Service.
Really?
That they changed the script.
Yeah.
They got their asses sued by Studio Ghibli because Miyazaki said, I will let you do my dubs, because he didn't want to have them dubbed at all. He wanted them to just be put out in Japanese with subtitles. But he said, okay, fine. I will let you do this on one condition. You don't cut and you don't change anything.
Oh.
And they did.
And they did. Not only did they change the script, but the opening song, the song Higher Than I Ever Could, that is not in the Disney Plus version because they got sued for that song because that was not the original song. They're like, we told you you're not allowed to change anything.
I actually did not know that.
That song. I'm sorry. Message in Rouge is a fucking banger.
It is
such a slapper.
Yes.
I don't give a hell what anybody says. That is such a great song.
It is. No, it is.
And first of all, and also the lyrics in it is so great because it's a story about a girl. The song is about a girl who's in a way becoming a big girl because she's leaving secret messages in lipstick to someone that she likes. And this is also this story about this girl becoming a big girl in the sense of like, I'm leaving the home, I'm leaving the nest, I'm doing my thing kind of thing. And it's like, it's so great. it didn't need to be changed
Mm,
at
I
all.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I actually didn't know this at all either. It was one of those things where, late nights on YouTube, you're just kind of like going through things like
the rabbit holes.
going through like 10 things you didn't know about
The rabbit hole.
Wayne films, and it was like, and one of the things was about like Studio Ghibli films have a no change policy, and apparently they got sued for it. So that's why everything from here on out is like they will not touch it. However, and
Of
also
like
and
Easter eggs.
I will say there's one more
Arguably.
issue I have with Spirited Away. It was with Spirited Away. It's the scene when she realizes that Haku is the dragon that saved her as a child. In the Japanese version, she says, "I'm so happy. I am so happy right now," and that's when she cries.
Oh yeah.
In the American version, they changed it to Haku. I can't believe it. It's you. I love. And literally, my sisters and I were both like, "What the fuck is that?" You know you've messed up when in a theater full of children. You get two adults who are watching their mouths go, "What the fuck was that?" So, yeah, I mean, as much as I will say there hasn't been, majority of Ghibli films have not had bad, have bad deaths. Even the bad, it is funny to say, like, and there have been bad Ghibli films as well.
Like the new one?
What's the new one?
The 3D one?
It's not.
Is that the witch one?
Yeah.
Oh, I tried watching it and I was like, I gotta turn this off.
It's not. It's so weird because
it's so on. You're just like, oh my god, it's
Gosh, I mean,
it's
I
a
will
lot.
say that
The
continue,
animation style does not work in CG.
It doesn't.
The animation style does not work in CG. I was so sad.
Yeah, it's. I'm assuming they're going with cell shading. I'm assuming the cell shaded CGI. Is that what that is? Where it's like it looks like it's a 3D image, but they give it like a hard edge. So it looks like some anime. Like
they didn't do it right, because that's been done before. Like Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron was 3D, and then they just 2D'd over it, and it looked fine. This was just.
I think they try to go too progressive. Like they try to like go too, and like the thing about like Ghibli art styles, like. Exactly, like Ghibli art style, it's meant to be whimsical. When you have something that looks like 3D and like it looks so like it looks blocky, and that's just not how like the Ghibli like feel is, and it just doesn't work.
No, I can't. It's also really sad to hear that they're like trying to go into like CG territory even, because like I feel like they're one of the few like animation houses that still works in 2D.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but I personally love 2D animation. So like, I get it's a pain. It takes so long to do. I understand it's expensive, but even with that said, like, there's such a love for it still, and there's such a demand for it. I feel like, because you can tell. Like, I feel like a lot of shows nowadays, like even like the animated shows on House of Mouse, you know, like the ones that are just like, you know, for like 10 minutes and gone. They put
House of Mouse.
But like nowadays it's just like, oh, we're gonna put out like a Kung Fu Panda like series where it's where the pandas where the fur animation is so bad. Like the fur literally looks like someone just like, imagine like the fur, like a CGI fur, and someone went, "That's great," and then they put their hands were covered in gel, and then they just started like doing this with all the hair. Like that's
okay. Listen, y'all, I do have to bring up one like 2D animation style kids show that I legitimately think is like one of the greatest shows ever. It's called Bluey. It's an Australian kid animated show.
Bluey?
You know what I'm talking about? Yes.
I don't.
Like
Bluey.
Feel good. It's feel good. It's adorable. You don't have to be a kid to watch it, and you will cry.
Oh no, I don't want to cry.
The power of cry. It's a feel good cry. It's like
it's
you
on
feel good
Disney.
about yourself
It's on Disney
and
Plus.
affirm. It's on Disney Plus, yeah.
They're puppies.
They're puppies.
Aw.
They're puppies, and it's like great because they use like actual breeds that a lot of people don't know, like the blue heeler. A lot of people don't know what a blue heeler is. It's really good.
And I'm assuming that's the character of Bluey.
But yeah, they do 2D
I'm gonna go on a
animation.
limb
They
here.
do very like whimsical, wondrous. It's like, yeah, like it kind of, you know, in the sea of Peppa Pig and the Minions, this is like the good shit.
Yeah.
We gotta be. I just want to make sure. Does Bluey promote gangster-like behavior like Peppa Pig does?
Oh my God! No, stop.
I've
We
never
all
seen
know,
Peppa
when I
Pig.
think gangster qualities, I think Peppa Pig.
Well, yeah, she did hang up on her like friend, like the Mary Sheep or whatever.
Well, no, it's actually. I heard that Peppa Pig is blocked in Taiwan. Not Taiwan.
China. So it's really weird. It's actually not really blocked because you can still find it. And Peppa Pig is actually really popular in China still. It's like,
Okay.
yes, it's very popular. People still love Peppa Pig. And it's like, it's because the people started using her as a gangster side, but it's just weird. But
Gotcha.
people love Peppa Pig there. It's really weird.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up the film. I actually would love to hear what you guys thought about it. This is where we will give it our grading score. It's out of 1 out of 5 popcorn buckets. I would love to hear everyone's ratings on this film. Yaya, Alyssa, Sabina, what is your rating for Princess Mononoke? Yeah, you first.
Oh, me first? Oh, okay. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because one, there's still some trauma there, but it's mostly because like I think for me it's more of like, why do the animals have to die for people? And that's the thing that always bothers me. It's like when you see a movie and you see like the horses always die and the people like, I'm like, no. It would have been a 5 out of 5 if the wolves lived at least a big wolf. But yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's a good film. It's amazing. I definitely recommend people watch it because it is such a different. Because when you think of Ghibli, you usually think of like, Totoro, Kiki. It's very feel good. It's very like sweet. It's like the nostalgia. But this is so different. And it's not about like a child maturing, like, like Kiki did, or like Sen did, Chihiro in Spirited Away. It's definitely a darker, like I think we talked, it's like the melancholy, like bittersweet, and I think it's definitely worth a watch, like for those who haven't. It's amazing. But just if you have like weird things like I do about like worms underneath your skin, just trigger warning.
Listen, what about you? What's your rating for this?
I give it a 4. I'm not sure why. I think it's one of those movies where I really need to be in the mood to sit down and watch it because it is some heavy content. But I mean, besides it being absolutely stunning, one of my main reasons for people to watch it would be that there's not necessarily a bad guy, like a villain, because the whole outcome of the film is just based on what everyone else is doing. So kind of like everyone is their own hero and villain depending on who they're interacting with. I also think that everyone's very grounded. They're very real. Like Eboshi, she's the villain, but she's very human in that she's doing it for what she thinks are the right reasons. And same thing with Ashitaka. I think it's one of the more real Ghibli films, and I think anybody can watch it and relate to it. So I would give it a watch just based on the fact that the story is phenomenal.
I agree. How about you, Sabina?
I co-sign with everything y'all have said so far. I think this movie is just, it keeps coming up. It's very otherworldly. It kind of imagines what would nature say to us or communicate to us if it could, in this just like magical, surreal way. And just, which makes like giving giving nature like that more present voice through the animal characters, through the environments, and like the godlike characters is what makes this movie so stirring and so timeless. I can honestly say I don't know if there's any other movie that has like gotten that close to like really personifying, you know, the world around us in a way that I think is just so necessary. So I also give it a 4 out of 5. Kind of knocked it down a little bit, mostly because of the pacing. But you know, the cool thing about Ghibli movies is that they explore so many different ideas, and like in the end, the story does come together in a really good way.
Awesome. Now I'm going to be the out there in all of this, and I'm going to have to give it a 5 out of 5. That's right. It's my first 5 out of 5 on this thing. I think it's just a great film. I feel like it's, yes, you maybe have to be in a mood for it, but I personally, when I'm watching a film, more often than not, I'm looking for something epic as it is. This movie is epic as all hell. It is an epic tale of it is by definition an epic. It is a story about a man's journey, you know, from one point A to B, and he discovers more about himself than the actual journey that he was on. And it's beautifully animated, beautifully scored. It's got an amazing cast. The messages that this film conveys is so great. It actually, personally, I feel it's the reason why I am so connected to nature and spirituality and stuff like that. I think it has a lot to do with this film. So yeah, it's influenced me a lot in my life. 5 out of 5 buckets of popcorn for me. Oh man, I am so glad you guys got to join me for this. I appreciate you guys so much. I know, especially you, Alyssa. I understand it's East Coast. It's late.
Thank you for staying up.
We appreciate it so much. And you know what? And I appreciate all of you who decided to chime in the comments. Thank you so much. Cue Ball, Ava, thank you so much for chiming in. We love you guys so much. And you know, we hope you guys come to the next one. I think in the next one we're doing, I believe we are doing Evangelion. We are celebrating the anniversary of Evangelion, particularly the end of Evangelion. It's weird. It's an interesting one we're going to be talking about. I'm excited. I've got some of my friends coming to talk about it. Another thing I'm super stoked to talk about. I hope you guys join us for that. Once again, my name is Kenji. Actually, I would love to know, where can we find you guys? Sabina, where can we find you on the socials?
She's frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen.
She's just really good at staying still.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Am I frozen?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm back.
Do it again.
Yay, you can find me on Twitter at Sabina has no R. I tweet out all the links to articles I write for IO9. That's on Gizmodo. I talk about all things genre, pop culture. I'll be at Comic-Con interviewing a bunch of really like big names for Marvel and like DC and Paper Girls and the Amazon. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can get the latest from Comic-Con straight from there, because I will be there most of the days. And I will also be talking to webtoon creators like Rachel Smith from Lore Olympus, who, if y'all haven't read Lore Olympus, you need to. It's incredible. I love it. I cannot wait to talk to them. They're someone I've been wanting to talk to for a very long time. I'm like more excited for that maybe than about like the WB people, because I'm obsessed with that stuff too for IO9, but I also like to post like my recommendations I've been on that I think are amazing, like the ET, because it is a sin they took away from us here in Hollywood. And you can find that sort of stuff on my Instagram at Going Cool Places.
Awesome. That's actually really awesome about Lore Olympus. I almost cosplayed as Hades one year, so
Eva Persephone.
Alyssa, where can we find you on the socials?
Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. It's under the same name. It's Alyssa R, as in Rachel King. I wrote it down. I thought it's backwards, but whatever. ALYSSARKING. That's it. Yes.
And Yaya, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Jade Yaya. I post bi-monthly about Chinese culture, traditions, and all that fun stuff. You can also find me on Twitch at My Hamachi. I stream Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's really fun. And you can always find me on other social media like TikTok, Instagram, all that fun stuff, either at Jade Yaya or at My Hamachi.
Awesome. And I am Kenji. You can find me on Instagram at Kenjinator. You can also find me on TikTok at Kenjinator. You'll find me doing a bunch of impersonations there. You can also find me on Twitch at The Kenjinator. And also on Sundays, I am part of a podcast with my father where we do a D&D campaign. My father is the DM. He's a phenomenal DM. And we usually do that on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This Sunday, however, we won't be doing it. But however, the following week, we will be continuing it, and it will be at KD in LA. Thank you again so much for joining us for Nom Talk Review. Thank you again so much to my guests. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all out there. We hope you have a great night. You have a good night.